the arguments. Commissioner?
Hey, hey, Matt. Hey, buddy.
Missed you.
I got the updates. Like interesting.
I don't remember it coming from her.
I thought it came from her. She's.
Were
you at home
Right.
watching
It was.
on TV and laughing at us?
I was actually on Beaver Island.
Oh, okay.
So you weren't plugged in students.
Zoom, were you?
Yeah, she did. She did something.
Okay, okay.
She wrote up, she was the only letter.
you probably could've heard it from there.
Midori, especially short-term left.
Oh, okay,
And it's,
okay,
and I didn't go back to look,
okay.
but like I read it and I went, I've read this before.
You
It's
got
the exact
internet
same
right
letter. And it was this language
Body.
of precedent.
Yeah.
Which like doesn't
issue
recognize the
with
fact that we
businesses
already
out there.
passed the other one, so. they
Mhm.
Send us a copy at least, right?
Oh.
Random on water.
I could look if I wanted to, but like I just, it just, yeah.
Let's have this done by 7:20.
Yes.
Huh?
Get out of here before the public comes.
These phones that you can call off the island with.
The same phones out there, Lisa.
The July 10th, 2025 meeting of the Mount Pleasant Planning Commission is now called to order. Ms. Pawi-Dyko, can you take roll call?
Commissioner Deveni,
Here.
Commissioner Farley, absent. Commissioner Friedrich,
Here.
Commissioner Havels, absent. Commissioner Irwin,
Here.
Commissioner Kingsworthy,
Here.
Commissioner Leash,
Here.
Commissioner Martinez,
Here.
Commissioner Ortman.
Here,
We have a quorum.
thank you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the June 6, 2025 Planning Commission regular meeting.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the Zoning Board of Appeals report.
So the ZBA did not meet in June.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is for communications. Ms. Pawi-Dyko, do we have new communications?
Yes, we did receive one letter in opposition to the case we're hearing tonight, SUP-25-10, a short-term rental at 120 South Main Street. The letter came from Artreach.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the public hearing for SUP 25-10, a special use permit request for a short-term rental. Ms. Pawi-Dyko, will you please introduce the item?
All right. So the case that we have today is from the applicant Aaron Smith, who is the owner of 120 South Main Street on behalf of Big Country Fabrication and Storage LLC. They are seeking approval for a short-term rental located at 120 South Main Street. The goal is to convert 2 existing dwelling units into short-term rental units to bring more tourists to downtown Mount Pleasant while giving flexibility to the owner to find new tenants after his long-term tenant left. So he shared with us that he had a CMU professor that actually had his primary household elsewhere in the state and did rent for a very long time as he was teaching at Central. And then I'm not sure if he retired or ended up, just leaving Mount Pleasant. So he is not renting anymore. So Aaron would like to be able to convert the 2 dwellings to short-term rentals should he need to open those units up for short-term rentals, but he's still open to long-term rentals. So that's what he shared with us. So the existing building is a 2-story mixed-use building. There is a mortgage business downstairs that used to be located at the ground floor level, but is not there anymore. So the space is actually vacant right now. And then the top story contains 2 2-bedroom units, each with approximately 850 square feet. There's no parking on the premises since it's in downtown, but there are several public parking spaces at the town center, Jockey Alley parking lot, and parking lots 4 and 5. But overnight parking, as you may know, is only available on parking lots 4, 5, and Jockey Alley, and not at town center due to the events that the city likes to hold over there. The 2 dwellings already have a valid rental license through the fire department for a family or up to 2 unrelated occupants in each unit. So the short-term rental would not exceed that allowed capacity. The applicant is not proposing any additional building or site alterations at this time, but has indicated that he already renovated one of the units with new vanity and kitchen cabinets. So this is the location of the site as mentioned, so just a block away from town center. And you can see parking lots 4 and 5 south, and then Jockey Alley on the northeast corner of the image. The surrounding land use is mixed use high for all sides. And we have on the north a hardware store, for art's sake, and Motorless Motion on the east, a vacant storefront on the south, and parking lot 4 on to the west. And then we have City 5 for the surrounding zoning district designations, except for the west side due to the parking lot being a civic zone. The current conditions viewed from Main Street looking southwest, so it's the yellow colored building there. And then this is the view from the back of the property from parking lot 4, looking east. And just to share something funny, when we were looking at lighting and just the condition of the parking lot and all that in the pre-application meeting, I thought that was a real light. I forgot that it's an art on the wall, so that was funny. Parking lot 4 is about to be resurfaced by the Department of Public Works through the CIP. So there will be some renovations there. In terms of the special use conditions that apply to all special use permits, so the general standards that we have are really trying to make sure that we don't have any nuisance that occurred due to the proposed use. So in this case, as I mentioned, there is not going to be a change in potential density on the units per se, so occupancy. The only things that are usually concerns for short-term rentals is potentially tenants not respecting noise standards and parking in places that they're not supposed to, and I guess just disturbance in general with traffic and noise. So with that, I usually ask applicants to provide their rules regarding their short-term rentals. It's very common for short-term rentals to have those booklets, so he did submit one that he created for this. And then with traffic, as I mentioned, there are several lots around the site where guests are going to be utilizing. And then the city is trying to create a system for overnight parking. So currently we have guest parking that is free. And usually it's if you do have a guest coming to your house, you can get a guest parking, for you to park on public spaces for free. The other one is the overnight parking that has an annual fee. So now we're just seeing which one would be more suitable for short-term rentals. Nonetheless, the applicant already said that he would do whatever parking permit that he needs to do for this. And it's just a matter of administrating passing the permit from tenant to tenant. So I didn't see any issues with the general conditions. And then with the specific conditions, the lot is not substandard. So the first condition does not apply. The following conditions also do not apply. We don't have accessory structures on the premises. We don't have off-street parking. And we also don't have outdoor hanging out spaces related to this premises. And then in the very end, I show there that I believe that there is consistency with zoning regarding not changing the exterior appearance of the building. There's no separate cooking facilities in sleeping rooms, and all the interior features are already compliant with the fire department safety standards. And all applicants are made aware that if they do any changes in the unit that will increase dwelling numbers or structural expansions, outdoor spaces, all of those things trigger a new SUP. So they're aware of that and not planning to do any of those. So the public comment, as I mentioned in the beginning of the meeting, we received one email in opposition. The letter was delivered on June 27, 2025, and it has been placed on the dais for all of you. So staff analysis on this case is that the answers that the applicant provided in staff analysis, we think that as with short-term rentals, as I mentioned in the previous meeting, I think it's a good addition to downtown. It's bringing a short-term or a stay option for those visiting Mount Pleasant, right in downtown. So it does help support businesses. And currently, we don't have a hotel in downtown. So that's why I think the market is trying to fill for that gap. We don't have outdoor gathering spaces, so there's not a lot of potential disturbance as we would see in potential residential neighborhoods. And again, capacity is going to be maintained as the same. And then the building is located close to several public parking lots here that we allow overnight parking. So with the findings and analysis, the staff recommendation is for the Planning Commission to approve SUP-25-10. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the planning commission have any questions for Ms. Povidic?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So both the units are upstairs? Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
And then the other question I had was, so can this be both a long-term and a short-term rental?
Yes.
Okay, that's by city code or,
Yes, so the long-term rental license is always required for short-term rentals,
Gotcha.
and he already has the two long-term rental licenses for the units. So it basically passes all standards for life and safety, fire alarms, required windows, exits,
Yeah.
fire exits, and then clearance height as well in the bedroom. So all of that is already cleared for any type of rental.
okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question with regards to the property. The application mentions that it's 850 square feet. Is that, and it also mentioned it doesn't refer to whether the usage is going to be for upstairs and downstairs? Do
Okay,
we
so-
believe that it's 850 square feet upstairs and downstairs?
So 850 should be for each of the units.
It couldn't possibly be two such units upstairs,
I see, let me
is what
see.
I'm wondering.
Actually, I
So
think it
it's
is. I think I've been
included.
up there before at a former coworker who used to be a rent up in that for a few years. And so, yeah, I think it's 850 apiece.
Okay, so this just pertains to the upstairs area.
Just the upstairs, yeah.
Okay.
So the downstairs is commercial and currently vacant. And then the units are upstairs. So they're two bedroom units upstairs, each of 850 square feet.
Right.
That's what the applicant stated.
It's
and
just
you can ask
clarification. I was just
questions. Yeah.
curious, you know, it's not, I don't know how important it is, but
Yeah, you can also ask more questions to Aaron. He is online and can answer questions later.
also I wondered if I could address the email communication submitted pertaining to this application. I just wondered if, you know, some of the points that are in these letters, I think a similar letter was submitted for 105 East Broadway, which is a very similar application if I'm not mistaken. And I know that a little bit of your responses do address some of these points, but it appears that these kinds of objections are going to continue to come up. And I wondered if you either have studies or some kind of response in process with regards to some of these assertions in here. Undermines stability and character of the neighborhood, brings transient guests with no investment, increased noise, decline in quality of life. So someone like that. I just was curious if
Yeah, so
you,
I think some of the concerns just regarding health safety for tenants that are not, you know, or residents, if I may, that are not there for a long time, right? It is the type of concern that happens for long-term rentals as well. There is an idea that anyone that rents is not in the community for a long time, which is not true. So that's for long-term rentals. For short-term rentals, it is true. We have more of a transient type of individuals coming in and out. But for both the city's staff perspective on it, and this is after talking with fire department and public safety, and then all the folks involved in this process, building safety, public works, we believe that because of the rules and regulations that we have, especially for rentals, so we regulate rentals way more than we regulate owner-occupied housing through our fire department licensing process. So they are there every year. They're ensuring that it's well-maintained. And because they're rentals, landlords are not going to want renters who are dilapidating their units, right? So when it's owner occupied, someone may not notice that they're dilapidating their building or may not care, and no one can do anything about that. As opposed to rentals, you can always evict in case you do miss, you get someone from the short-term rental that is not behaving well. You're going to choose your own rules and regulations and procedures to screen folks beforehand. So we don't see an issue with that. Again, we believe in the codes and regulations that we have that help provide that safety net regarding rentals. And then regarding just the idea of or the issue around the CVB and hotels, yes, they do charge extra. They do pay towards the CVB for increasing tourism in town. We all agree that we would love to have a hotel in downtown. We don't have one. I am trying to work with some property owners here in downtown and see if we can find a site in which perhaps we do put more financial incentives to perhaps get a hotel in the future. Right now, that's the situation we have, and tourism always helps businesses, especially businesses that are local and are unique to a community. So overall, we think that the benefit of having more tourists in downtown is really great. And we are not taking away from potential residents of downtown, because at the same time, we're also trying to build more in downtown. Like the case that we heard last week about a developer that wants to do another large mixed-use development like Broadway Lofts right here in downtown. So as we are growing in terms of units in downtown, some units may be transitioning to short-term rentals, but I think all of that is a benefit to downtown.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, I expect that between the safety net, so to speak, as you mentioned, and also simply the fact that there's not necessarily perhaps settled science, quote unquote, about these questions and the benefits that will outweigh. It all makes sense. I appreciate your explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And as we talked about in our work session, when I brought up the short-term rental as a policy here, we don't see huge numbers here. We're not a very touristic town, so the Planning Commission decided not to make it harder to do short-term rentals at the time being. At the same time, we do have the regulations to institute penalties of those that are not abiding to the general standards. So we do have, the first fine is $50, the second one is $100, and we can fine people every day if needed in case we do get violations and the landlords are not helping, right? So if you get a allowed Airbnb rental, and we get a claim of noise in one day, the next day someone calls, right, report that noise, police comes, next day is the same. So if those things happen, we can revoke the special use permit, and then there's no way back. If they try to get it again, we're going to have all those violations to report to the Planning Commission, who may then deny a second SUP. So we do have all those standards in the ordinance that allows us to ensure that we don't get bad behavior.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. And so you said the applicant is online?
Yes, so Aaron is online. I'm going to be allowing him to talk now.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, thank you for considering this, and I appreciate your time. And any specific questions you have, I'm here to answer.
Do any members of the Planning Commission have any questions for the applicant? Okay, we're not seeing anyone has any questions at this time, so thank you. Now I will open public comment for comments related to this case, if any members of the public wish to speak at this time. Seeing no one here that would like to, is there anyone online?
No one is online?
Okay, thank you. I will close public comment and open discussion.
Move to approve SCP 2510.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is new business for a new housing report. Ms. Pavlidayko?
Sorry about that. All right, so today I have here our new intern in the Planning Community Development Department, Yuyan Deng, who will be presenting a draft outline of what information we would like to include in our 2025 housing report. And we would like to collect the Planning Commission's preliminary feedback on the document structure and how we kind of split the different issues and then recommendations as well at the end. So I'll let Yuyan speak. And Yuyan, if you want to just introduce yourself, talk a little bit about background, what brought you here, and then you can go through your presentation.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yuan Ding. I'm an intern with the Planning and Community Development Department of the City of Mount Pleasant. I currently am a graduate in planning in University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. And I'm doing intern here for this summer. And I'll be presenting our current progress on how 2025 housing report. Here's the agenda for the presentation. I'll talk about the goals of the report, and then discuss its housing options, housing affordability, neighborhood opportunities, and end with recommendations and Q&A. The report is to better understand the current housing conditions, challenges, and opportunities. It focuses on housing options and prices. It serves as a guidance for future developments and policies. It also aligns with the 2050 master plan. First, we want housing options for all. But before that, I want you to be familiar with the changing population of our city. In the last 15 years, the city had experienced a steady decline in its total population. But we are also seeing a consistent growth in its non-CMU residents. In 2029, the city will expect to have 20,681 residents, in which half of them will be non-CMU residents. Because of the increase in non-CMU residents, there is a growth in number of households. In 2024, the city had 8,120 households in total. Among these households, 20% of them are student households, 48% of them are in working age, and 32% of them are senior households. By 2029, there will be an increase of 166 households in total. We'll see a shrinkage in student households, but an expansion on working age and senior households. On the left-hand side shows the housing units by type. The city currently has 40% of housing units are single-family houses, 43% are multi-unit complexes, like apartments, and the city only has 18% of other housing types, as we say, missing middle housing or non-conventional rentals, which are housing units with less than 4 people. On the right-hand side, we have households by number of units. 42% are owner-occupied and 58% are renter-occupied. But if we see households by number of lots, 71% are owner-occupied and 29% are renter-occupied. The difference is because renters often live in apartments and owners live in houses. So instead of increasing ownership rate, we want to encourage ownership options for units that are more attainable, which are often missing middle housing typologies. Based on previous studies and surveys, we identified 2 major issues regarding housing age and conditions. Many homeowners complained about their housing qualities. So 61% of owner-occupied housing units were built prior to 1970, which means more than 50 years old, which is higher than the rate of county and state The county has a rate of 36% and the state has 47%. And for renter occupied housing units, 3.4% of them have incomplete plumbing or kitchen, which is also higher than the state and county level. Here's our current for sale housing market. From January 2022 to March 2025, 609 housing units were sold in Mount Pleasant with a median price at $170,000. In March 2025, there are 39 available housing units with a median price at $220,000. In 3 years, the housing prices increased by 29%. And during the same time, the rate for the state of Michigan is 25%, and the United States is 14%. At that time, the availability rate is 1.2%, with a month's supply of inventory at 2.5. Here means how long does it take for the market to sell the house? So in a healthy, well-balanced market, the rate should be between 2 to 3%, and the MSI should be 4 to 6 months. Here it indicates we have a seller's market, meaning home buyers need to pay higher prices to buy the same quality of housing in a normal market. In May 2025, Bowen National Research surveyed about 1,500 conventional units in Isabella County. They found the vacancy rate for market rate units was 3.9%. For tax credit / government subsidized units, the rate was 0.3%. They also found the vacancy rate for non-conventional housing rentals was 0.6%. Once again, in a healthy, well-balanced market, the rate should range from 4 to 6%. All here is to say we have a significant lack of non-conventional rentals in the area. In next 5 years, Mount Pleasant expect to have at least 962 rental housing units and 567 for sale housing units to meet the housing gap. And for Isabella County, if the number are about 2,000 and 2,500. The city currently have 15,817 employees / jobs. And here are the top 3 industries by share of employment. Educational services, followed by healthcare and social assistance, and then accommodation and food services. Because we have CMU and the hospital, the city created more jobs than workers. So on a typical day, there are about 12,000 workers coming to the city to work from nearby areas like Union Township, Shepherd, Whitman, Alma, Clare. And there are about 4,500 workers leave the city to areas like Isabella County, Midland City, Saginaw, Lansing, and Grand Rapids. To put it more directly, we can say for every 2 people who live and work in Mount Pleasant, 12 people live elsewhere and commute to the city to work. And all is to say, the city has the potential to capture these workers if we provide enough housing options and affordable housing units. Here are some examples of housing units the city currently does have, but need more, like a triplex and a fourplex. Here are examples of housing units the city doesn't have, but elsewhere. For example, a pocket neighborhood in Seattle, Washington, an urban townhome in Vancouver, Canada. These are housing types that are suitable for seniors who want to downsize or want to enjoy a more vibrant neighborhood atmosphere, and they are also more efficient in land use. Here's a mixed-use building in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a live/work building in Atlanta, Georgia. Second thing, we want affordable housing for all, more specifically affordable for households with less than 80% median household income, and attainable housing for households with 80% to 120% median household income. Let me explain these terms first. MHI means median household income, and in 2024, the MHI for the city is $46,168. Affordable housing means when a household spends no more than 30% of its total income on housing costs, including rent or mortgage, taxes, utilities, and insurance. If you spend more than 30% of your income in housing costs, then you are cost burdened. If it's more than 50%, you're severely cost burdened. Attainable housing means attainable housing are affordable for middle-income households, typically earning 80% to 120% median household income. Here is the distribution of households by income. As you can see, we have a reducing number of households with low income in lower ends and an increase in higher ends, which means we will have a more balanced income distribution, but still, we still have a large portion of population earning less than 120 median household income. So our goal is to provide affordable housing for households in income at this range, which accounts for 40% of total households. If we include attainable housing, then it's about 53% of total households. Today, the median rents in the city for one-bedroom apartment is $875 per month, and for two-bedroom apartment is $935 per month. And for non-conventional rentals, the prices are way higher. So here, if you want to afford the rents for the apartment, you have to earn at least $35,000 a year, which you may be a preschool teacher, retail salesperson, medical assistant, crossing guards. And this earning is about 80% of median household income. And that is why we put 80% of MHI at our threshold for affordable housing. Today, the median for sale housing prices in the city is about $220,000. If you want to afford the mortgage, you have to pay $1,571 per month for 30 years, and which means you need to earn at least $62,840 per year, and you may be a healthcare social workers, school teachers, firefighters, real estate managers, and that earning is about 136 median household income, which is above our upper limits for attainable housing, 120%. And that's why we need a more attainable housing in the city for those households earning 80% to 120% median household income. In the previous housing report, it divides the city into 8 neighborhoods. And for each neighborhood, it lists its population, dwelling units, and average year build. For our new 2025 housing report, we consider adding a vacancy map and including its density and also zoning readiness based on future land use map. This year, CMU students worked with the city and they did a research on mapping the neighborhoods. They asked the local residents to draw their mental maps about their neighborhoods and to get a perception of their neighborhood boundaries. It was interesting that they often consider city features like parks, commercial buildings, vacant lots as not part of their neighborhoods. Such perception could create a resistance in future efforts in promoting more efficient land use. In the end, we recommend increasing both housing productions and housing qualities through a financial support. We have programs like Employer Assistance Housing Program, TIF, Neighborhood Enhancement Program, CHILL, and through B, zoning reform and policy review to create a more efficient land use and a smoother development approval process. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have one general question, is probably for Manuela. I think I asked this of Jacob a long time ago, but I mean, the city's pretty much built out. Do we know how many lots are actually available for single family housing?
I do have that data not in front of me right now. I can try to open it here, but we do have infill sites. So especially on the west side of town, we have one-off infill sites for single-family homes or duplexes, which is mostly the zoning district designation on the west side. And then we do have, in terms of greater land area, we have basically 4 locations in town. One is the Cross Lanes property that came for the rezoning last month. So that is a 12-acre site on the northeast end. The Lee Properties right north of Isabella Citizens for Health is another 10-acre site. And then we have around 20 acres along Bradley on the west side, where basically Broadway ends at Bradley. And then in front of that area, there's a big vacant land next to the school.
Okay,
And then we have
in the city,
Field.
okay.
Yeah, in the
Okay,
city.
all right, alrighty, okay. So there is a possibility. Of
Yes, we
expansion.
can still grow. And what Yu Yang did on this slide is to basically say, aside from providing the statistics that the 2019 report had, we also want to list what are those vacant sites and do regular or general calculations on how many units we can still provide within the city's footprint without needing to expand horizontally. So overall, the goal would be for each neighborhood to understand what are their strengths and opportunities. So within the existing housing stock, what kind of neighborhood that is, what kind of building types they have, and then where we do have vacant land, what kind of buildings could be created. So we can then move on to actually creating housing opportunity.
Does the,
All right,
go ahead.
yeah, I'm fine.
Does the current code allow for some of these other housing types that was in your example, like the pocket neighborhoods, and is that
So-
allowed right now? Or we
So-
need to change something?
We went really far with the 2018 zoning ordinance. I think we are really ahead of many, many other municipalities in Michigan and elsewhere in the States. But we do still have a few things to troubleshoot for. One of them is for the pocket neighborhood related to the tax change that I'm going to the city commission on Monday for the final public hearing. So due to the limitation on number of buildings per lot, we don't allow that typology. Live work is also another one that we do list as a typology that we allow. But when we look at home occupation regulations, the limitations on square footage that you can occupy for a business in a building is limited. So this typology can only really occur where we also allow for commercial uses. So we do have some little things like that in the code that I'm hoping that I can package in a zoning tax change that it will be more substantial, after we see all those issues and then we get them to the planning commission for review and go through the process. But that's part of the next 2 years of work that I would like to undertake as part of the grant that I put in my memo that I received last year, the Housing Readiness Grant.
Does tiny houses fall within this affordable housing bubble, or is that a totally separate issue?
We can, and the good news on that is that our zoning ordinance does not have minimum square footage requirements. We used to in the previous code, we don't anymore. We do have obviously other codes that regulate size of bedrooms and amount of windows and all of that. But even the building code reform, the new Michigan building code that was just approved finally this year, they do have a whole section about tiny homes. So I think we are in a good position for smaller building footprints, but right now we can only do one in each parcel.
Oh, okay. How small can the parcels be?
So CD4, they can be as small as 18 feet in width.
Okay.
And the reason being, I believe it's to allow for townhomes. That's what we had in New York City too. So you can do a townhome development and then split each section. So we have firewalls in between. So each unit can be in its own parcel and you can sell that. So townhomes can be can provide ownership options that we, again, don't have in Mount Pleasant. Aside from the like fourplexes at Rosewood, we can look at that as a townhome, if you may, but the looks is not exactly that.
yeah.
But yeah, so we are not too far, but we can do some changes to enable those missing middle housing typologies
Mhm.
more easily.
Nice presentation. I appreciate
Thank
that
you.
data.
Should I continue?
So no more
Uh,
questions?
Any more? Okay.
And is the structure and narrative flow something that you liked? So we can then jump into drafting a report like this?
Who's the report for?
So believe it or not, I did receive calls from real estate agents since my starting time here, asking if we do have another housing report.
Oh, okay.
And so I do think that once we do have the housing report, we would put it on the city's website. And then I would like to be very clear on the message on the housing gap, how many units we have to create, what kinds of populations may be looking for housing. All of that will help the market, the developers, the investors, the real estate market to try to maybe change the way they approach the existing housing stock and also attract the development of new housing in Mount Pleasant. So that's kind of the main reason for doing a housing report. And then I would love to be able to connect with the real estate folks a little bit more. And Yu Young already started, so he did email. We created a survey to real estate agents, and we would like to talk with them more. So once we have a report, we can provide that as a piece of information, as they navigate the housing market in the next few years.
Yeah, well, I think for that audience, that's probably perfect the way it is now.
Okay.
It's a lot of data, and I think if you're going to release it to the general public, that might want a little more narrative in it to
Sure.
kind of explain it. But I think real estate agents would totally get what you're saying there.
Nice. Yeah. And if it becomes too long, I think a good way is to do a 2-pager so we can share with the public. But my goal is actually to make it short.
Yeah.
So we'll try to condense and just get the actual learning points from those data points and then publish something that's easy to read. That's the ultimate goal. And Yu Young is going to be here with us until mid-August to get into that exercise.
Great.
But yeah, thank you. Good questions. And thinking about the audience does help us define how it will look like.
I'd be happy to do some proofreading if you want an extra set of eyes on it too.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we will love that.
I'm a terrible proofreader, so don't give it to me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone online that wishes to?
No one's online.
Thank you. I will close public comment. The next item on our agenda is staff report for administrative reviews. Ms. Pavidyko?
All right. So I just have one case to report, 1105 North Mission Street, SPR 2507, which was approved on June 25th, 2025. The image is very dark here, so I apologize for that, but it is a very simple drawing. So the applicant the applicant wanted to add a new container on site, 40 by 80, for the storage of their equipment. And they don't have a lot of space within the building anymore because they expanded their showroom for kitchen supplies. So they would like to have the container to increase that footprint for storage. It's going to be right behind the building, so it's going to be screened by the building. So there wasn't a lot of requirements for this case, except for ensuring that they are 3 feet away from the rear yard. And in this case, they're going to be 15 feet from the rear to also allow for snow plowing more easily and all of that. So that was approved. And that's it. And then I can go maybe to the next item. So I'm very excited and sad at the same time. So excited to announce that we have a new office professional. Her name is Kaylee Cullen. She's sitting right here, and she comes to us from the Parks Department. She was at the Parks Department as a part-time for a little bit. And the very exciting news is that she's going to be joining us at the Planning Department and Buildings full-time. So we were with a part-time, so basically I had 25% of office professional time for the Department of Planning for a year and a half, and Susan handled that brilliantly. I cannot speak much, enough about it. And then Susan, she said that she's leaving our department, but she's going to be here at the city at the HR department. So she's progressing to HR and has a lot of knowledge to share since she has been utility billing, planning, buildings, and now HR. So 4 different departments in a year or so that she has been with the city. So Kaylee, if you want to just share a little bit about yourself and.
Hello, so my name's Kaylee. I graduated from CMU with a Bachelor of Fine Arts. I played flute, so music education degree. And I'm just excited to be working with the community. So, thank
All
you.
right, welcome.
And that's it.
Hey, thank you. All right, at this time, if there's no further business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Well, I was up to senior biological station. Like a three-day weekend or something, that we did. Right.